Okay, we've covered the basic, what I would call primitives in the solids creation menu, the sphere and the cuboid, and we did some work with the extrude. The next command in the solids subpalette is the revolve command. And what that allows you to do is take any 2D shape and wrap it or revolve it around either of the primary axes, the horizontal or vertical axes. You can also set the rotation or revolve center line if you'd like. Very handy tool. So let me go ahead and double click on this thing and put our starting solid in the body bag. Remember, anytime you want, you can double click on a solid and put it in the body bag and take it back out, just drag it out of the body bag. So use the body bag as a way of managing the resources of the solids palette. So the screen is now empty. I'm going to close the body bag, go back to my top view, and let's do an unzoom here, fit the geometry to my screen. What I want to do here is go into my, get these menus down out of the road here. By the way, these two palettes are moving together. You may want to know that there's a preference for that. File preferences interface, I believe, yep, right there it is. Lock solid surface palettes. That's a default that you have control over. So if you have that checked, obviously when you move one, they travel as a pair. That's a very handy way of keeping your screen managed. Unlike unless you've got the resources and you can add a second monitor, which is always a good idea. Give you a little more screen real estate. So I'm going to go and move my view control knob out of the road and pull up my geometry palette. Remember that second button down, and a little review of an earlier session. F2 gets you into the sub palette for geometry creation. Remember, those are F1, F2, F3, F4, etc. all the way down. And inside the palette themselves, it's first button, second button, third button, etc. all the way over to the Geometry Expert number 9. So that's just the keyboard, not the function key. So two ways of getting into almost everything you do. There's always more than one way in Gibbs. What I want to do is select the line tool here and pick on the mouse line, and notice what happens when I bring up the mouse line palette. We get this sub palette here where I can set a grid snap. So what that basically makes me do, or forces me to move in 100,000 increments. It won't let me snap to a increment in between a 0.1 move, or you can make that whatever size you'd like. And as long as my cursor is inside the stock boundary, notice that here the display in X and Y shows me where the cursor is. I'm not going to pay a lot of attention. I'm just going to freeform a shape here, something that we can do some experimentation with in the revolve. Try and end it pretty much where I stopped it. Inside the mouse line, also the mouse point tool, when you're through using that tool, just hit the escape key, and that closes the palette and connects the shape into a connected open shape. Notice that both of these end features here are yellow squares, which tell us that's a terminated shape. Terminated, trimmed, for lack of a better word, to themselves at a point. Unlike the blue squares, which are the connections. If you need a review of that, there's a complete set of videos on earlier lessons about the connection aspects and the connection colors that Gibbs uses as a resort. I want to just go ahead and break these corners here, so I'm going to hold down the control key and select each of these sharp corners here. Let's put a little fillet on there. Let's go with a 1/4 inch radius and see how many of those 1/4 inch radius will work, and turns out it works on all of them, so that's good. So that's just a very simple 2D open shape. Doesn't have to be connected and fully terminated, or fully connected like some other things we do in Gibbs. I'm going to bring up now the sub palette that says revolve, And notice how we have two icons there: revolve around the horizontal axis, revolve around the vertical axis. And notice when I change the horizontal, the Y center line changes. When I pick the vertical, the attribute changes to X. So need to give it a revolved center line. In this case, we're just going to revolve around center of the part. And the A stands for a total rotation or total revolved distance. Just pick any piece of this here and click on the Do It button. And in fact, it gives us a revolved shape around that center line. Note that this is a legitimate full 3D solid entity. You can always right click on that and go to the Show Properties, and you can verify that it's in fact a solid model by clicking on the Physical Properties tool down here and click on the Calculate button. It'll give you the surface area and volume. Very handy if you're in the mold business and need to know how much area or volume a solid takes. So if you need to calculate weights or costs, that kind of thing, it's a very handy way of getting very accurate information about the solid model. Note that there's an accuracy slider here. You can change that if you like, and I've never noticed all that much difference between 50% and 100%. So 50% is a good kind of a happy medium on using the calculation properties. And for now, we're just going to leave it set to stock here. And the chord height we talked about earlier is 0.01. So there we go. There's our first solid. Let me go ahead and undo that, and let me close that again. There we go. Don't have to revolve around center line of 0 if you don't want to. So let's go maybe make this an inch and see what we get. Again, any piece of the open shape selected will suffice. Oh, maybe that's too big. Let's go with a 1/2 inch here. Click on up. But we go the other direction. Let's make it minus an inch, and you'll see I'm going to revolve it now around the center line over here at X minus 1, and that gives us a much larger solid. So you can do it around any center line you pick. It doesn't also have to be in the vertical axis. So let me undo this again. Edit undo. It's also Control Z from the keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and do an edit select all here, select all my geometry, and do a modify 2D rotate around 0, 0. Let's go counterclockwise 90 degrees and put the shape parallel to the x-axis now. I bring up my revolve tool again. We can go horizontal axis, give it some y attribute. Again, we'll go back to 0 and click on the Do It button. So you can revolve around either axis. And again, let me undo that for just a second here and show you that you don't need to be a full 360 degree revolve if you don't want to do it that way. Let's go with a 90 and look at the pi section there, and you'll see in fact what we get is 90 degree section of that solid model. That's a positive 90. It goes in the positive right hand rule direction. If I undo that and dial in a negative 90, go back to minus 90 here and do that, you see it goes the other direction from top down. So you can make any section of a revolved surface. Doesn't need to be closed. As a matter of fact, sometimes you don't want to do it closed. If a geometry section happens to revolve around itself, you'll get an error and won't let you do that. So good idea not to have these as closed shapes. And you can use this tool to generate many types of revolved solids. Very handy way of taking simple 2D wireframe geometry and converting to full 3D solid models. That's pretty much all you can do with the revolved. We're going to pick up later with the loft, and then we'll do something also about sweep.